Computers, laserdisc, cable television, interactive video. Communication tools that are increasingly more common in the workplace and home. How can the school system in California more effectively integrate the use of technology into classrooms throughout the state? What can education leaders and legislators do to disseminate information about this technology? And how can the state develop a plan without input from stakeholders? In an effort to answer these and many other questions, more than 165 representatives from government, education, and the business community met for a two-day summit on education technology in California. Mind Extension University was pleased to serve as one of the sponsors of this event and to share its proceedings with you. The summit, which was convened by the California Planning Commission for Educational Technology, will serve as a model for many other states across the country that are faced with these same issues. The summit's conclusions are being used by the California Commission for Educational Technology to develop a final plan that will assist the state legislature in formulating legislation that will help to design the classrooms of the 21st century. Phoebe Webb, chairwoman of the Planning Commission, welcomed the summit's participants and stressed the importance of their individual and collective insights to the planning process.
And this summit serves as a rallying point for all of us, a rallying point during some of the toughest fiscal times educators can ever remember. But basically, I want to remind you that the reason we're really here is because of our love for the student, the learner. And I don't want you to forget that through all of this. To do our best work at this summit during these 2 days, above all, what we need are ideas. We don't need dollars today. We need ideas.
John Cradler of the Far West Labs, a commissioner and summit chair, provided an overview of the summit's agenda and its relationship to education reform.
When you brainstorm your visions, there's just a few things I wanted to mention, to consider. Most of all, you need to look at needs of students and educators in California when you think about technology. When you get into discussing budget, be creative. Think about a lot of ways that you can creatively fund technology. It doesn't always have to just be the state to fund technology innovations. Restructuring is another area. As most of you know, we're into restructuring with Senate Bill 1274, and that's a good opportunity to look at innovative ways of tying technology into restructuring schools. School-based planning is another trend. New methods of assessment, I think technology can play a role there in the whole alternative assessment movement. Coordination of resources, I think that's one of the most important reasons for being here, is that because we're all from diverse sectors and segments of the system, we can look at a lot of ways to tie together the elements and put together the pieces, so to speak. And last, curriculum reform and school improvement using technology.
A nationally recognized leader in education technology, Don Ely, served as the summit's facilitator.
It's nice to be here from the East. I think maybe one reason I was invited was that I'm far enough away to be called an expert or a facilitator. I'm sure there are many people in the state of California who could do what I'm trying to do today, that is to help things happen. It's a great opportunity to be here with you and to not essentially have a vested interest, a direct vested interest in the outcome. So I hope I can say some things and use some probes and ask some questions that maybe other people might not be able to ask. Maybe that's one reason I was asked to introduce people this morning.
State Superintendent of Schools Bill Honig keynoted the summit with his views on the role of technology as a resource for meeting the state's more demanding curriculum.
You can't expect an elementary school teacher to be an expert in mathematics, in science, in history, in the 7 subjects that she or he is responsible for teaching without bringing the support to that teacher for those youngsters. And I think that's the promise of technology that has so far been untapped.
Following Bill Honig's view from the state were remarks by members of the California State Senate and Assembly, some of whom sponsored Assembly Bill 1470. They included State Senator Rebecca Morgan.
I really see this technology for the kids, for the management of a district, and I also see it looking forward as combining telecommunications out into the homes. As we have more and more cable television, we have the capacity for telecommunications. We shouldn't just be focusing on the child that doesn't speak English and helping them move to English, in my opinion. We must involve the parent. sometimes hard to get them to come to school, whether it's job responsibilities, whether it's fear, whether it's lack of time, whatever the reasons. I think we must reach out to the parents, and telecommunication equipment, in my view, is a way to do that.
Assemblyman Sam Farr discussed the link between the use of technology in the classroom and preparing students for the workforce of the 21st century.
We are in a world where I figured out the 4th grade class right now will graduate in the year 2000. And it's estimated 70% of the jobs in the United States at that time will not need a college degree. So our mission, I think, is to make sure that the children that we are educating today are capable of coping with the world that they are going to inherit.
Ken Hargis, legislative aide for Assemblyman Chuck Quackenbush, underscored the importance of utilizing technology in schools for improving the efficiency of classroom learning.
The second thing that I was reading that really hit home was the growing gap, the growing income gap, the growing education gap, the growing skill gap that's happening in this country and in other countries around the world, so that we have approximately 10% of our population that is getting more and more of the resources, more and more of their share of the income in this country. And those 10% are the ones that have the most high technology skills in their particular society. So the gap seems to be between the people who can cope, who have those technological skills, and the vast majority of others that have no sense about how to cope in this increasingly complex world. So we've got to get more technology into the schools. We've got to use that to make the system more efficient, or otherwise we're going to have these tremendous inequities in the system that are only going to cause us more and more problems in the future.
Providing the most spirited assessment was Assemblywoman Delane Easton, chair of the Assembly's Education Committee, who advocated a Marshall Plan for education.
What the Persian Gulf War should show us that if we make the right level of investment in the right technology and the right equipment and the right training and the right staffing, we get an outstanding outcome. Why did we do that? We did that to minimize casualties. Now think about it. Are not the 4,000 children who drop out of school every day in this country casualties? Should we not then be making the level of investment that we made when we discovered there was a problem in savings and loans, when we discovered that there was a need in another country? Should we not, in fact, be thinking about our children as an investment in our future, and should they not go to school every day assured that they will not only have a computer experience during the day from some locked room in the corner, which is where most schools, if they have computers, they have a room that they've locked up, and the kids are allowed in there maybe an hour a day, maybe an hour a week. But every kid should have access to a computer, and that should be a computer on the teacher's desk.
The summit's focus then shifted to the educational community's views. Panelists on the State of Education panel included James Bauman, superintendent of the San Jose Unified School District.
What I see happening now is we have administrative systems over here, and we have classroom systems over here, and we have parents having computers over here, and of course with students with less money or fewer advantages coming into schools because the conditions of children have changed so dramatically in the last years, is that there is not an integration of the various hardware and software efforts. In fact, it is very, very fragmented.
Craig Blurton, director of the California Technology Project, focused on the importance of pre-service training for teachers in order to achieve the integration of communications technology and curriculum.
Now, the importance of pre-service teacher education, I can't stress to you enough. I think it's really overlooked in this discussion a lot of times. A 1987 RAND report said that the majority of teachers who would be teaching in classrooms in America in 1995 had not yet been hired. So we're in the process of replacing the teaching force, the workforce in teaching, and we need to focus on pre-service in a way that we haven't as yet.
The role of community colleges in providing distance learning to upgrade the skills of California's working adults was outlined by Ernest Leach, Vice Chancellor for Economic Development and Vocational Education for California Community Colleges.
We believe that distance learning holds potential for delivery of unique educational experiences, particularly to remote areas and also for inner city students that may not come to traditional facilities. Also, we think it provides a wonderful medium for some of the upgrade training that will be necessary for currently employed workers on the work site.
Thomas Mossman, chairman of the Regional Education Television Advisory Council, or RETAC, discussed the importance of the state's role through its regional centers in maintaining the educational system's communications infrastructure, including broadcast television, cable, and microwave systems.
ITFS, microwave, which is a system that we have in the Archdiocese, is a very valuable part of the network. Cable is becoming a major player in the delivery of instructional television, particularly through the efforts of the cable industry to support and promote education as one of the services that they're providing in their corporate structure.
The need for a communications gateway enabling all California teachers to access information by voice, video, or data was described by Barbara O'Connor, Professor of Communications for California State, Sacramento, and Chair of the state's Educational Technology Committee.
I have become more and more convinced that the key to all of the deployment of technology is interconnectivity, compatibility, and networks that not only serve education, but serve all public sector information providers and users. And I think that's where we've been missing the boat.
Advocating the importance of direct experience in learning was Elizabeth Stage, Executive Director of the California Science Project and Chair of the state's Curriculum Commission.
The vast majority in the middle are going to use and support technology, and they too are taxpayers and citizens and voters, if they see it helping to extend and enhance this more demanding learning curriculum, thinking curriculum, not if it's displacing something that something else does better.
Following these remarks, the panelists discuss additional issues raised by their audience, including the importance of taking a more focused look at the needs of each student.
The other one that I'm finding great versatility in applying to policymakers is the Disability Rights Act. Those of you who haven't looked at the broad, spread provisions and equity guarantees in that bill that the President signed in the fall should, because the same kinds of technology that will solve the needs of persons with disability will solve our needs as well.
The final overview, a look at the state of the art in communications technology, was provided by 5 leading representatives from the business community who discussed the relationship between technology and the educational process. Leading off the discussion on the state of the art and science was Stuart Alsop, co-founder of the Foundation for Educational Software. Utilizing corporate contributions primarily from the computer industry, the foundation is working with educators to develop useful products.
The picture I want to paint for you is actually pretty bleak, and that's fundamentally that the computer industry really doesn't know what you're up to. The industry at large really has no idea of what's going on in education or in terms of how technology is being used in education. The educational market for the computer industry is very small relative to the other marketplaces that exist and the amount of money that's spent in other places. And basically the problem is that that portion of the industry that knows what's going on is very fragmented. You have the hardware companies, and that mainly means Apple and IBM and a little bit of Tandy, have people that work for them that understand what's going on and know who to sell their computers to, but it's fundamentally a mercenary thing where they're trying to sell computers into the educational system, and there's this notion that if they do that, then they'll have many future users as they graduate from the school systems.
Also on the panel was Jerry Jacobs, Assistant Vice President for Pacific Telesis, who challenged the group to make a paradigm shift and get out of the box of envisioning only conventional classrooms and learners.
And our public education system is struggling right now to really define itself in the ways that Stuart was mentioning that causes the vacuum for a lot of people who are interested in being helpful in education and technology. And so I would say to the Commission, let's take the work that is being done now and let's look at it in a way where we can get outside the box. Joel Barker, the futurist, talks about the use of technology in education as being something that will really change things, not so much because of what you can do to manipulate data, but what it will do is bring to life what Rosalind Slife, who is one of the executive board members of the National Education Association, has said it will do. It will free a teacher in a classroom from the 2x4x6 environment that they're now operating in.
Christine Maxwell, Vice President of Maxwell McMillan, focused on the role of CD-ROM and Laserdisc technology as a portable tool that easily integrated into classroom instruction.
We believe that multimedia products based on compact disc interactive CDI will have the greatest impact initially on education and training and in the games and entertainment field. To date, technology-based